Hello folks, IPMAT. Anyone who's thinking about IPMAT, you're thinking about GIPMAT, Rohtak and Indore, 3 different exams. Course from 2 IM starts on March 31, 6 hours per day, big sprint till April 21 and then a bunch of mocks. Sign up, best wishes.
All right, let's look at this reading comprehension. 2 Apple stores in Delhi and in Mumbai opened in April 2023. Until now, Indians could buy Apple products in the country either online or through a vast network of what the company calls premium resellers. Will the newfound ability to sell products directly to customers in India, the world's second largest smartphone market, impact its fortunes here? Apple has long tried to open physical retail stores in India. In 2019, the Indian government relaxed some investment rules, exempting companies selling cutting-edge items such as Apple's iPhone and iPads from restrictions. All right, so the main thing in this paragraph, of course, you should always extract the main point for each paragraph. The main thing in this paragraph is that Apple is opening 2 stores in Delhi and Mumbai in 23 for the first time, 2 physical stores, right? And the paragraph clearly says that this will give Apple the ability to sell products directly to customers in India because these are their own stores. So they'll sell the products directly to customers in India. What is also important to understand is that Apple, again, don't bring in external knowledge, stick to the RC. Until now, it says Indians could buy Apple products, right? So Indians were able to buy Apple products till these stores opened, but that was either online or through a vast network of resellers. So resellers, again, you don't really have to understand what resellers are. You can also understand it from context if you don't know what a reseller means. See, this is the stores that Apple is opening is giving Apple the ability to sell products directly to customers. So from this, you can interpret that up till now, Apple was selling it indirectly to customers, right? Now they'll have stores so they can sell it directly. But till now, what they were doing is because they didn't have stores, they were either selling it online or indirectly via another company to customers. So resellers are that. In simple terms, and again, you don't need to know what resellers is to understand this, RC. But resellers, in very, very simple terms, what does the word say? Reseller. They're reselling. So these are companies, okay, or you can say vendors or organizations that are reselling Apple products to the Indian consumers. So instead of Apple directly selling it, they have resellers. They had that till now, but now they have 2 stores where Apple will directly sell its customers, directly sell its products to customers. So the author is asking a question, right? That will it have an impact on Apple's fortunes? Will this strategy really impact Apple's business positively? Okay. All right. But the main point again, and again, I'm repeating, you don't have to know what resellers is. The main point is that Apple is now, they've opened recently 2 new physical stores and they're going to directly start selling products to its customers. Whereas erstwhile, they were doing it online or selling indirectly. All right. Okay, let's continue. Apple first launched an online store in India through a website which allows users to request for customized products. Apple's decision to open physical stores in India could be the next step in its branding strategy. All right, branding strategy, again, you don't have to get into details of this. This doesn't require specialized knowledge. Branding is nothing but Apple is building a brand. So a strategy to build their brand, a strategy to make their brand popular, right? So that customers know about Apple or are attracted towards their brand, right? It is not as if this will change Apple sales in any dramatic way. This is interesting. So the author is clearly saying that these stores are not really expected to change their sales in any dramatic way. But it is still a key milestone, one that will allow Apple to deliver to Indian customers the full Apple experience, because these are Apple's own stores. The iPhone is still an aspirational product in the price-sensitive Indian market. When you launch an Apple store, you're basically giving a premium experience to your premium consumers. It might not pull up sales, but it pulls more people into the Apple ecosystem. That's an important line. So understand what the author is saying here, right? The author is saying that these physical stores are great, are going to be great for Apple's branding strategy. And what is really important is the author clearly says that this will not change sales. This will not increase sales. It might not pull up sales. But how will it help Apple? It will help Apple by pulling more people into the Apple ecosystem. People will visit their physical stores, get the full Apple experience, which is also mentioned here, and it will attract more people into the Apple ecosystem. might not impact sales, but attract more people into the whole Apple ecosystem. That's what the author is saying. Setting up an Apple store in India is also a statement that the country is now big enough for Apple to be actually interested in expanding operations here, and comes at a time when India is rising fast as a manufacturing base for iPhone. So what the author is saying is that this is a sign that, the country is now the market, the Apple, the India market for Apple is now big enough for Apple to actually expand their operations here. It's a big step, right? They didn't have physical stores at all. Now they're opening 2 physical stores, although it's just 2, but still it's a big step because the first time they're opening physical stores and selling directly to consumers. So the author is saying that now Apple probably thinks that India is big enough for them to expand operations, which is a good thing for India. And it comes at a time where India is rising fast as a manufacturing base for iPhone. Now, this is a new point that the author is bringing up. Always be conscious of this. It's a new angle that's coming up. Be conscious of that. It will help you in comprehension. Right? So whenever the author takes a turn or brings in a new point, be conscious of that so that you can, maintain the flow of the passage and then at the end extract the main idea very well. So this comes at a time when India is rising fast as a manufacturing base for iPhone. Apple first began making a lower-end model of the iPhone in India in 2017. Last year, it began producing its latest model of iPhone 14 in the country, which now accounts for 5% of total iPhone production. So iPhone manufacturing has also increased in India, right? It started with a lower-end model in 2017. Now, Apple is actually manufacturing its latest model in India, and it accounts for 5% of total iPhone production. So the manufacturing operations in India are also increasing, Apple's manufacturing operations. So on one side, you have these stores that are opening, and on the other side, you have Apple ramping up its manufacturing operations in India. It's good. Both these things are good for India. For years, Apple had relied on China's sophisticated manufacturing network to produce the bulk of its products. But analysts predict that by 2025, a quarter of all iPhones the company makes could be produced in India. Now, that's huge, right? I mean, we're talking about currently it's 5% of total iPhone production. And it says by 2025, a quarter, that means 25% could be produced in India. It's a huge jump from 5 to 25. So the manufacturing operations are increasing. Apple was already making between 5 to 7% of its products in India, and they're targeting to go up to 25% of their manufacturing capacity. Fantastic. So Apple is really ramping up. So while it used to rely on China, it still relies on China, but the India manufacturing is ramping up. From 5 to 7%, it's expected to go to 25% by the end of 2025. So this manufacturing part of it is now a new point, as we discussed. In 2022, Apple had a 60% market share in the Indian premium smartphone market, which is huge, which refers to mobiles that cost 40,000 INR or more, ahead of Samsung's 21% share. Again, don't get confused by all these terms. Again, if they're like, you don't really have to understand each and everything. Read everything, extract a broad main idea. If there's a question around this, we can always come back and reread that portion. But don't attempt to understand each and every detail. So here it's talking about market share. It's 60% in 2022 of the premium smartphone market and quite ahead of Samsung's 21% share. Apple is doing well across categories. The real issue will be to pull customers to these flagship centers without alienating the partner sellers. Now, this is an interesting line. Again, don't really focus too much on it, right? The main idea, we're towards the end of the passage, the main idea is the focus of the passage. Where is the focus? Think about it. The focus is on the fact that Apple is opening 2 physical stores in India for the first time. And the author says that while it might not impact sales, it will help Apple pull more customers into their ecosystem. So that's the main focus. And then the other angle that's very important is that Apple is doing it because now Apple probably thinks that India is a big enough market for them. And also the manufacturing point is also a very important point. So you've understood all these main points. You don't really have to deep dive into it. If you understand it, great. Otherwise, leave it. And then if there's a question, we'll come back to it. So there is a concern here, right? Remember, Apple already has resellers, that sell Apple's products on Apple's behalf in India. Now Apple is opening its own stores. So in a way, it will start competing with its resellers. Right? These other companies were selling Apple products. Now Apple is directly selling its products So the resellers might feel that, okay, what's happening, right? The Apple, I'm selling Apple's products, but now because Apple is selling it directly, there could be a conflict. The resellers might feel excluded. They might not be happy about this decision because they might feel that Apple is taking away their business, right? Why would people come? A reseller might think, why would people come to me when Apple has a direct store, right? So that's the thing, that's the point there, but it's not important for you to understand that. The author is bringing up that concern is that Apple will have to be careful about that. How do they pull customers to their own centers without alienating or without kind of troubling or annoying the partner sellers or resellers that they have. Apple has finally understood that India's premium market is growing, so why not be serious about it? Okay, right. Now, quite a few things. It can be a fairly complex passage to understand, not very complex, but fairly complex. But the main point, the main focus is definitely on the physical stores that Apple is opening up for the first time, and how the author says that this will help Apple to pull more people into the Apple ecosystem. And then you have to understand, why is Apple doing that? Why is Apple opening up physical stores? Because it seems like Apple is now taking India seriously. India's premium market is growing, Apple's market in India is growing, and now it's big enough for Apple to take India seriously. So Apple has decided to open those 2 stores in India. Okay, the focus is definitely there, but also the manufacturing point, don't forget that. Along with this, it's happening at a time when Apple is already ramping up its manufacturing operations in India, where it's expected to go from 5% to 25%. So overall, it seems like both these aspects, Apple is taking India very, very seriously. All right, so that's the main idea. Let's have a look at it. Again, our words don't have to match. You should always extract it, but we should be on the same page. So here I've spoken about how it's opening to physical stores and the author's view of how it might not impact sales, but pull more people into the Apple ecosystem. Then the manufacturing point, and then the fact that Apple is doing this because India's premium market is growing, and Apple is taking now India seriously now, or much more seriously than before. Okay, interesting answer. All right, let's look at question 1. Apple's challenge while opening physical stores is to. Interesting. Now, what is Apple's challenge? That sentence that we were talking about, right? Now, see, if you didn't understand the sentence then, okay, this is the time. And again, you should not focus on it while you're reading. Don't focus on details while you're reading the RC. Read everything, but don't try to understand each and everything. Extract the main idea. But if there is a question, then go back to that specific portion and read it. It's just an efficient way of doing it. We're only spending time on details when there is a question attached, right? It just logically makes sense. So what is Apple's challenge while opening physical stores? Don't even look at the option. Go back, okay? You know where it is, where that information is, because it did sort of, when we were reading it, it came up. So go back and now understand this if you haven't understood it properly. Create some shadow answer and then come back and look at the options. Don't look at the options directly, they'll confuse you. So what is the issue? The author says the real issue will be to pull consumers to these flagship centers without alienating the partner sellers or resellers. Remember, the resellers are already, by the way, resellers, partner sellers is the same thing. Resellers are already selling the products indirectly for Apple. Okay, so consumers, if you want to buy, if a consumer wants to buy an Apple iPhone, what they're doing is they're going to a reseller, which is another company which is selling products on Apple's behalf. This is already happening. Now Apple opens its direct stores, okay, and starts selling directly. Obviously, there's going to be a clash, right? The resellers were doing this. Now Apple has come in directly. Now, as a consumer, if you want to buy an iPhone, let's say you're in Bombay and Delhi, where these stores are opening, and you want to buy an iPhone, where will you go? What are the chances? Will you go to a reseller or will you go to the company directly? You'll go to the company directly. So now if that starts happening and consumers start moving away from resellers to directly Apple, the resellers, this might annoy the resellers, or the resellers might get worried that, their business is being impacted. We were doing really well, but now since Apple has come and started selling directly, our business has gone down. So it can alienate them, it can trouble them, it can worry them, it can annoy them. Right? So that's the issue. So the author is saying that Apple will have to handle this now very strategically. How do they pull consumers without excluding or making their partner sellers angry or frustrated or annoyed. They have to balance that. They want to get more customers, but at the same time, they don't want to mess with the resellers. So that's the concern. That is the issue. And the author is saying that Apple will have to strategically handle it. All right. So yeah. So if you haven't understood the statement, it's going to be a bit of a problem. But if always come back, try it. The question is complicated, leave it. Right. Don't take a risk. I mean, there are 6 questions. Leaving one is not going to make much of a difference. Don't take an unreasonable amount of risk with such questions where you haven't understood. Leave it and then go to the other questions. So Apple's challenge while opening physical stores is to do what? We have some sort of a shadow answer. Provide stimulation that draws customers away from other sellers. Absolutely not. In fact, author is saying Apple has to be careful. If they start drawing customers away directly, the sellers will definitely feel bad. And that's not what the author is saying. The author is saying the opposite. Be careful. Apple needs to be strategic and figure out how they can do this without alienating the sellers. Offer parallel products packaged more attractively. This is completely out of scope, right? This is not mentioned or implied in the RC at all. Retain links with their partner sellers while drawing customers to their stores. Now, look at this. Retain links with their partner sellers while drawing customers to their stores. So that means they're balancing this, which is what the author is saying. Okay, maintain the relationship with the resellers. At the same time, figure out a way to draw customers without alienating the sellers. So this sentence is just saying the same thing, what it's saying. It's just different words. They've rephrased it, but it exactly means this, which is real issue without alienating the partner sellers, right? So that is, looks like the right answer. We'll park it. Subtly alienate customers away from competitors. Absolutely not. We're not even talking about competitors. We're talking about resellers, which are different. But even if you consider the competitors the resellers, that's not what the author is saying. The author is saying that Apple will have to be strategic here. Apple is not author is not talking about, distancing from the resellers or alienating them. How can you not alienate resellers? So it's completely opposite to what the author is saying. The answer is indeed 3. It can be a tricky one. Okay. The Apple retail stores in India will. All right. What will the retail stores do? The 2 physical stores. Let's look at the options. Bring in more customers and increase sales. No, the author clearly says that this will not, or this might not impact sales. You can go back and check. We discussed it. Always, if you're not sure, go back to the specific portion and quickly check it. Not have any impact on Apple's image. No, in fact, the author says that this will be good for Apple's branding strategy. Next step in Apple's branding strategy, right? So it's actually wrong for the passage. It's inconsistent. Drive healthy competition on the smartphone market. Does the author say that the Apple retail stores will drive healthy competition on the smartphone market? No. The author has not spoken about this point. The author doesn't imply this at all. Not materially impact sales of iPhones. Yes, the author clearly says that. And you can go back and check that this will not impact sales, but it can help Apple pull more customers into their ecosystem. So this is indeed the answer. All right. Okay, let's look at 3. Apple's aim is not only to increase sales of its iPhones, but to draw people into Apple's ecosystem. All right. Okay, now this has been given in double quotes. We'll go back and we'll check. We don't have that statement directly, but this is the statement which is similar to that. Okay, so that's not being borrowed from the passage directly, but that statement is very similar. Okay, let's look at this. Apple's aim is not only to increase sales of its iPhones, but to draw people into the Apple ecosystem. In the context of the passage, this statement means that Apple seeks to. Now, the question set is asking, or the question is asking, what does this statement mean in the context of the passage? Now, the statement is very similar to this, okay, where it says that it might not pull up sales, but it pulls more people into the Apple ecosystem. Now, what does this mean? Let's try to understand. It can be a little tricky, can be a little difficult, but let's try to understand. So it's not impacting sales. So they're opening up 2 stores, and we're saying it's not going to increase sales of iPhones. Then why are they opening it? But to draw people into the Apple's ecosystem. What is Apple's ecosystem? Think about it. What is ecosystem? Ecosystem is like a self-sufficient thing, right? Different components, right? And then you have an ecosystem. It's kind of like a self-sufficient unit made up of different components. Now, if we're talking about Apple's ecosystem, what are the different components of the Apple's ecosystem? Think about it. Does Apple only sell iPhones? No. I mean, that's their flagship product, but there are other things, right? There can be an iPad, there can be laptops, there can be AirPods, there can be other accessories. Number of things are there in Apple's ecosystem. You can even consider iTunes as part of their ecosystem, right? So number of things in their ecosystem. So perhaps what the author is saying, or what this question is saying, is these stores might not increase the sales of iPhones, but it will attract people to the Apple ecosystem, and they might buy other different products, right? They might not buy an iPhone, they can buy an iPad, or they can buy AirPods, but AirPods will be iPhone, so that it's not valid. They might buy an iPad, they might buy a laptop or other accessories, not necessarily iPhone. Okay, all right. So can be a little tricky. You'll have to sort of think about it, but if it clicks, then you can definitely attempt. Now we have some sort of a shadow answer. Let's look at the options. In the context of the passage, the statement means that Apple seeks to attract customers to buy its phones through innovative means. No, their objective is not to increase sales of iPhones. That's clearly mentioned. So this option can't be correct, right? Because clearly says it's not about sales of iPhones. Attract customers by displaying a wide range of aesthetically designed products. Is that the objective of the stores? Again, you have to focus on the sentence. Aesthetically means beautifully designed products. Is that the objective? That we'll open a store, we'll have these products very beautifully presented, and that will attract customers? No. Don't use logic and external knowledge. Stick to what they're saying. You have to focus on this, but to draw people into the Apple's ecosystem of different products is what we discussed. So this is not the answer. Be the market leader in the world of premium smartphones. No, this does not mean that. This has nothing to do with drawing people into Apple's ecosystem. Bring customers into a network of related products which it offers, right? So the ecosystem is nothing but the ecosystem of different Apple products. And as we discussed through these stores, they're trying to draw people into the ecosystem. They can buy any other product, not necessarily iPhone, right? So that is definitely the answer. And that is what the author means in the RC as well. This can be a tricky question. Again, in the exam, if it's tricky, you're not sure of the answer, leave it, right? I mean, if you're 50, even if you're 50-50, 50-50 is not enough for you to attempt an RC question. It should at least be 80% sure or 70% at least, right? I would recommend something like 80%. But 50-50 or less than that, leave the question. Attempt the other questions which are managed, right? But this one can be tricky. Some students would have found this tricky. All right, let's look at question 4. The main point of the passage, makes is that Apple. Now we already know the main point, which is about Apple taking India seriously because the market is growing, and they're opening up 2 physical stores and also ramping up their manufacturing operations. The main point the passage makes is that Apple has realized the strategic importance of the Indian market. This is true. It's consistent, right? They're taking India very seriously. And that's why they're doing the physical stores and the manufacturing base. So let's park this. Is that Apple needs physical stores to expand sales to more buyers of premium products? No, that's not the main point of the passage. And also remember, the physical stores are not meant to expand sales, right? So therefore, this is wrong. Is that iPhone was already popular in India? Is this the main point that the passage is making, that iPhone was already popular in India? Completely out of scope. Don't use external knowledge. The main point of the passage makes is that Apple needs new branding and marketing strategies to compete with Samsung. Definitely not. Samsung has been mentioned, but that's just one minor point. The focus is not on how they have to use new strategies to compete with Samsung. What this option is implying is that they're perhaps opening up those physical stores to compete with Samsung. That's not what the RC is saying. All right. Apple has realized the importance of the Indian market, and that's why they're opening up the stores. So 1 is definitely the correct answer. All right. Number 5, India is now the focus of Apple operations because. Why is India the focus of Apple operations? If you could go back to the passage, it was a part of the main idea as well. Apple is taking India seriously because the market is growing, right? Or Apple has realized that it's a large market. It's a big enough market for them to take India seriously. That's why they're focusing on India. Okay, so let's look at that. That's a shadow answer. It offers the benefit of a manufacturing base in addition to a market. Interesting option. It offers the benefit of a manufacturing base, which is absolutely correct for the RC, in addition to a market, which is also true. They've realized it's a big market. They've also realized that they can ramp up their manufacturing operations here. India has the facilities to support that manufacturing. So this seems like the correct answer. It has the world's second largest population. This is not the reason for their focus on Apple. They're not simply focusing on India just because we have a lot of population. They're focusing on it because of the market and the manufacturing base. Because American technology companies want to reduce their reliance on China. This is not an implication. If you've selected this, you probably used external knowledge. But that's not what the author is implying anywhere. The author simply mentions China and says China is their base, but India is also ramping up. That's it. There's no implication of them American companies wanting to reduce their reliance on China. This is complete external knowledge which should not be used. Because no other country has the same ease of doing business. Absolutely not. That is not the implication. That just because there's no other country, India is the only option, nothing like that. The answer is definitely one. Okay. All right, let's look at the last question. Based on the passage, which one of the following is not true? Read the question very carefully, because if you don't read not, you will get this wrong. Obviously, that's why I keep telling my students, read the questions and options very carefully. Read each and every word. Which one of the following is not true? That means three options are true, one is not true. We have to pick the one that is not true for the passage. iPhone 14 is being manufactured in India. Is that correct? Go back and check. With these kind of questions, you should definitely go back and confirm. Is the iPhone 14 being manufactured in India? It says that here. Okay, this is the evidence. For every inference, you should have evidence. Okay, let's go back. Seems like a long way between the passage and this question. So yeah, this is not correct. We're looking for not true. Regulatory restrictions were eased in 2023. There was some discussion about regulatory restrictions being eased, but we have to go back and confirm if they were eased in 2023. Always go back and check. So regulatory restrictions were spoken about somewhere here. Okay. It says, Apple has long tried to open physical retail stores in India. In 2019, the Indian government relaxed some investment rules exempting companies. So these are regulatory restrictions, but this happened in 2019. Okay, so if you don't come and check, you might confuse it, because 2023 has also been mentioned. But that's when the stores opened. But the restrictions were eased in 2019. So please come back and check for such questions. Very, very important. Okay, so this is not true. We'll park it. Manufacturing of iPhones in India commenced in 2017. Let's go back. Manufacturing. So they were, remember, manufacturing a lower-end iPhone model, which did commence in 2017. Okay, so you can come back and check lower-end model of the iPhone in 2017. iPhone 14 came in later. Okay, let's go back. So this is not an answer. Currently, 5 to 7% of all iPhones are manufactured in India. You can go back and check. I'm not going back because, again, it's a long way back, but you can go back and check. It's clearly written in the same paragraph that 5 to 7% is currently manufactured, but it's expected to go up to 25% by 25. So the only option that is not true or inconsistent is number 2, and that is our answer. This, if you don't go back and check specific elements in such questions, you will get it wrong. But otherwise, it's a fairly manageable question, right? Now, this RC is tricky, especially as compared to the first one, which was about sleep, right? In this, this is 2023. The sleep one was much more manageable. This RC is tricky. I think out of the 6 questions, I think question 1 is tricky. Question 2 is manageable. Question 3 is tricky as well. Question 4 is manageable. Question 5 is, I would say, manageable. Question 6 also is manageable. So I think 2 are difficult questions. 4 are manageable, right? Out of 4, I think 3 you can, if you got 3 right, I think you could get 3 right. If you got 4 right, I would say it's a very good attempt, right? Or rather 4, I would say it's a good attempt. If you got 5 or 6 right, then very good, right? But 4, I think, are definitely possible out of 6. If you do your due diligence, read the RC properly, extract the main idea and the questions. All right.
Hello, folks. Those of you who are thinking about IPMAT, the integrated 5-year course, you've got to think about it seriously. Parents who are listening in, you have to plan for this. After 12th standard board exams get over, there are a ton of exams. This IPMAT integrated course is a brilliant course. It's a 5-year course. Anyone who's interested in MBA, anyone who's saying, look, I don't want to do the mainstream thing, but I want to do something compellingly good, you must take this as part of your structure, as part of your set of options available. The number of seats is not too high, so you cannot say this is my only option, but you have to say, hey, I'm giving this a go. The exams to write, very clearly, these three. On GIPMAT is on April 26th. IPMAT for Rohtak is on May 5th. Indore is for May 12th. This is the simplest exam. This is the toughest exam. So we have nice gradation. You have to prepare for it. It's not a bleeding obvious exam that you can just go and wing it. There's also data interpretation, logical reasoning section. We guys have a course for it, which covers a bunch of live sessions. We'll be doing 6 hours of live sessions for 3.5 weeks as a run up to the exam. Bunch of mocks that we will administer to them and discuss and help and mentor and plan all of that with detailed video solutions. Whatever we do, we'll have detailed video solution for the previous year papers. We'll discuss them also in great detail. Come up with a good strategy for them to attack this. And the young kids, will do our best to help them take this exam, help the students take this exam. All of this included. The course begins the kind of almost immediately after the board exam ends. So it's on March 31st. So details of the course, how to sign up, when to pay, all of those are available in description. Check that out, sign up and have fun. Best wishes.
Let's look at this reading comprehension. We'll first read the RC, extract the main idea, and then go to the questions. All right, so what does it say? The general idea of being fit is usually assumed to be exercising regularly and having a healthy diet. It's true to some extent, but this is not always the case. People don't realize that sleep also plays a crucial part when it comes to physical and mental well-being. It's a restorative process which shouldn't be negotiable. All right, so I always tell my students that, when you're reading RCs, for every paragraph after you've read it, you should extract the main point in your head, or you can write it down as well. I mean, if the mental note doesn't work for you, write it down. So this paragraph is pretty straightforward. It's saying that generally people believe that, if you exercise regularly and if you have a healthy diet, that's enough for fitness. But the author is saying that's true to some extent, but that's not completely true, because sleep also plays an important factor. So apart from exercising regularly and healthy diet, sleep is also very important, is what the author is saying in the first paragraph. Hectic working hours, increasing stress levels, and an unhealthy lifestyle can cause irregular sleep patterns. These not only disturb one's daily routine, but can also hamper one's health, leading to lifestyle conditions like deranged cholesterol and diabetes. So now the author is getting more serious about this, right? And the first paragraph said that it plays a crucial role in physical and mental well-being. Now the author is giving you details that if your sleep is not proper, if you have an irregular sleep pattern, it can even go to the extent of causing deranged cholesterol and diabetes, which are obviously very chronic conditions. It's a preconceived notion that cholesterol and diabetes are usually genetic diseases, and unhealthy eating patterns and lifestyle exacerbate them. Exacerbate means worsen them. Okay, so it's always good to know vocabulary, but don't fixate on words. Even if you don't know what exacerbate means, you can always try to guess it through context. So you don't have to understand each and every word. All right. It's not generally known that sleep deprivation can put a person at risk of both deranged cholesterol and diabetes. Right. So what's the main point of this paragraph? Now, the author is giving you details about how, if you have an irregular sleep pattern or sleep deprivation, the harm that it can cause to your body. Right. The author says it can go to the extent of causing chronic conditions like cholesterol issues or diabetes. Right. And the author also says that the general notion is that diabetes is genetic, right? But the author says that sleep deprivation can actually put a person at risk of both cholesterol and diabetes. So it's very, very harmful. Sleep deprivation is very harmful, and it can cause major physical ailments. Let's continue. Sleep helps your body and mind repair and recharge themselves, but things can go awry if one is sleep deprived. Insomnia can generally make the body work abnormally. It affects the mental and physical abilities to prepare the body for the next day. It leaves the brain exhausted, affecting the natural functioning of the body. So again, the author continues on that line. What are the harmful effects of sleep deprivation? Right. So the author talks about insomnia. When insomnia is when a person can't go to sleep at all. Right. It's a very chronic condition. It's insomnia. So it's some kind of mania where the person cannot go to sleep at all or gets very, very few hours of low quality sleep. And the author says if you have such a condition, or if you are sleep deprived, your brain is going to be exhausted and it will affect the natural functioning of the body. So again, continuing on the line of how sleep deprivation can be very harmful for health. Lack of sleep can lead to higher cholesterol and blood pressure. So blood pressure has been introduced here. Sleep deprivation can lower levels of leptin, a hormone that stabilizes metabolism and appetite. All right. This can also lead to obesity if unchecked. So now again, harmful effects of sleep deprivation. The author has added blood pressure. The author is also now talking about obesity. So it's leading to obesity. Right now, there is a detail here, right, where it says sleep deprivation can lower levels of leptin, a hormone. Now, these are details, right? The main idea so far, and keep thinking about the main idea, keep focusing on the main idea. The main idea so far are the dangers of sleep deprivation, the harmful effects of sleep deprivation. So if you've understood the main idea, definitely read each and every line. Don't skip lines or words, but don't fixate on details. Don't try to understand what leptin is and how that works. Don't focus on details right now. Read everything, focus on the main idea. If there's a question about leptin, we can always come back and reread that specific portion. But right now, we know that it can also lead to obesity. Sleep deprivation has been found to raise levels of ghrelin, I can't pronounce that, the hunger hormone, another hormone, and decrease levels of leptin, the satiety hormone. That's why people seek relief in foods that raise blood sugar. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommends that adults should get a minimum of 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Staying up late can lead to consuming healthy snacks and junk food high in carbs and sugar. All this increases the risk of type 2 diabetes and is equally connected to obesity. Right? So lots happening in this paragraph. But again, the flow remains the same. The main idea remains the same. The harmful effects of sleep deprivation, blood pressure, obesity, how it can sort of cause hormonal imbalance and make you, if you're sleep deprived because of a certain hormonal imbalance, it can make people seek relief in foods that raise blood sugar. Like how you're sleep deprived, and you probably have seen that in your life as well, right? You're sleep deprived, and if you're cranky, you're attracted towards all this junk food, all sugary stuff or unhealthy stuff that can really cause havoc with your blood sugar. Right? There's an important point about the American Academy recommendation about 7 to 8. And again, the author comes back to harmful effects where it can explains in detail how it can put you at risk of type 2 diabetes and also obesity. Just like other routine, having a definite sleep pattern can help a person maintain a cycle of rest and activity. Sleeping at the same time every day and waking up on time will encourage quality sleep. Now, the author has taken a slight turn. Till now, we were talking about harmful effects of sleep deprivation. Now the author is giving suggestions, or the author is giving advice about how, what can help, having a definite sleep pattern, sleeping at the same time. So now the author is giving advice or sort of discussing maybe a solution, right? Or how can we be more careful about our sleep? Proper relaxation of body and mind before sleeping means that one should keep the mobile phone aside for at least half an hour before bed. So again, these are suggestions or advice. It helps if the room is dark and quiet. Plus, one can always read a good book or listen to soothing music when one can lull one into deep sleep. So these are all good suggestions to improve sleep quality, to reduce sleep deprivation, to having a definite sleep pattern. The author is just giving suggestions so that you can avoid all the harmful effects of sleep deprivation. Right? It's a fairly manageable passage, right? The main idea is pretty clear. It is the harmful effects of sleep deprivation, right? From diabetes to obesity to cholesterol to blood pressure. And also the author gives some very good suggestions about avoiding these issues. That's definitely the main idea. Have a look at this main idea. Our words don't have to match, but we should be on the same page. Always when you're done reading the RC, extract the main idea in your head or write it down and only then move to questions. It will really help you improve the accuracy of your questions. So the main idea that I have is, it says sleep plays a crucial part in physical and mental well-being. Sleep deprivation can put a person at risk of several things. And then it's important to get adequate sleep, and the suggestions, I've just summarized the suggestions that the author has provided. Okay. All right. Let's go to question 1. Now, it says being deprived of sleep can result in what? Okay, so the author does talk about sleep deprivation and the harmful effects. One is mental exhaustion. Does the author say that sleep deprivation causes mental exhaustion? Let's go back and check. The author does say here, okay, and that's why it's important to read everything. It says insomnia can generally make the body work abnormally. It affects the mental and physical abilities to prepare the body for the next day. It leaves the brain exhausted, affecting the natural functioning of the body. So you can always come back and quickly reread the specific portions to confirm or figure out your answer. Mental exhaustion has been mentioned. We're going to park it. Why are we parking? Because we haven't looked at 2, 3, and 4. Being deprived of sleep can result in terminal illness. Does the author say that? Terminal illness is a very serious illness which results into death. Okay, so for instance, cancer is considered to be a terminal illness. I mean, cancer can get terminal, right? If it's like stage 4 cancer, unfortunately, or a particular type of cancer, it can be terminal. Terminal illness is an illness that will most likely result in death. The author is not talking about that. The author is talking about chronic illnesses like diabetes and cholesterol, but those are not terminal illnesses. Terminal illnesses most likely result in death. So this is not true. Deprived of sleep can result in hunger satiation. Now, see, this is where a bit of vocabulary comes into picture. What is satiation? Satiation is satisfaction. Okay, so go back and check. The author has spoken about that. Now you can focus on that detail. The author says, sleep deprivation has been found to raise levels of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and decrease levels of leptin, the satiety hormone. So here from context, you can understand satiety is probably opposite of hunger. So satisfaction, when you've eaten enough and when you're satisfied with your food intake, when you're not hungry anymore, when your stomach is full, you're satiated, that's why it's called the satiety hormone. So satiety is the opposite of hunger, which is no hunger and complete satisfaction with food. Now read the option very carefully. Being deprived of sleep can result in hunger satiation. No, the author is saying the opposite. Deprived of sleep can result in hunger, not hunger satiation, not satisfaction of hunger, in hunger itself. So be careful with that. Just because you've read the word in the RC doesn't mean it's the right answer. You have to go back and check. It's not being used in the same context, right? The RC is saying the opposite of that. So be careful of that. Being deprived of sleep can result in metabolism loss. Now the author does talk about metabolism, but does the author say it results in metabolism loss? It says sleep deprivation can lower levels of leptin, a hormone that stabilizes metabolism and appetite. So it affects leptin, and leptin stabilizes metabolism. So sleep deprivation can make your metabolism unstable. That's what the author is saying. Instability of metabolism is not the same as loss of metabolism. The author is not saying it causes metabolism loss. The author is saying it causes instability of metabolism. So here again, it's about leptin, right? We didn't really focus on leptin when we were reading it. We were focusing on the main idea. But now since there is a question, come back to the specific portion, understand it well, and then answer it. So that is not true. It doesn't cause metabolism loss. It causes instability of metabolism. Okay, so this question is straightforward if you come back and quickly check specific portions to confirm your answer. And always remember one thing, just because there are words common in the option with the RC, just because you have the same words in the option doesn't mean it's the right answer. Question setters is a very common question setter trick to give the same words but change the context. So always go back to specific portions and quickly check as much as possible. The answer is mental exhaustion. All right. Okay, let's look at question 2. In what way does sleep contribute to a person's well-being? All right. Now, the author says a number of things, right? You can go back and check. The author says it plays a big role in a person's well-being because it recharges you. It protects you from, you don't get into ailments. It's a part of fitness. All of that the author has spoken about, right? So keep that in mind. Let's look at options. By helping the body replenish its resources. Replenish means refill. Okay. So does the author say that sleep helps the body replenish, refill its resources? Let's go back and check. The author does say that sleep helps your body and mind repair and recharge themselves. Okay, so this is one piece of evidence that tells us that it helps you recharge, replenish, refill resources. And also the author calls it a restorative process. If sleep is a restorative process, it's restoring your body back to a healthy state. So restoring your body, replenishing resources, repair and recharge. These are all pieces of evidence. So yes, that seems like the right answer. We will, by helping the body replenish its resources, yes, let's park it. And it's here you'll have to understand what replenish is. So a little bit of vocabulary comes into picture. By adding power and strength to the muscles. Now see, the author has not spoken about muscles anywhere in the RC. And don't bring in external knowledge, right? Like, I mean, you might think that, oh, this point is logical, right? That, oh, yeah, sleep can add, maybe, you might think it's logical, but that's not what we're testing it. This is a test of comprehension. So you have to look at the questions from the author's point of view. Has the author said this in the RC? No, the author has not spoken about muscles, so we're going to remove this. By increasing a person's appetite, absolutely not. The author doesn't say that sleep increases your appetite. Okay, the discussion is totally different. By regularizing a person's daily routine, does sleep say that it contributes? Is the author saying that sleep contributes to a person's well-being by regularizing their routine? No. The routine part has been spoken about where the author says that you should have a definite sleeping pattern. Okay, you should sleep. The pattern should be definite. You should sleep at the same time every day. It's talking about the sleeping schedule, but that doesn't mean that the author is saying that it helps in regularizing a person's daily routine. That is not what it is. So if you chose this, you probably misinterpreted that. So go back and reread it. That's not what the author is saying. These three are gone. The answer is indeed helping the body replenish its resources. So it's an inference that we've drawn from the RC. For every inference that you're drawing, you should have evidence. That's why I clearly pointed out and told you that this is the evidence, this piece and this piece for that answer. For every inference that you draw, you should have concrete evidence. If you don't have evidence, you don't have an inference. Okay? Let's look at question 3. In order to remain physically fit, one must. Now, the author definitely talks about fitness, right? And also makes a connection between fitness and sleep and saying sleep has a very big role to play with fitness. So let's look at the options. Number 1 says maintain a set sleep pattern. Now, this could be the correct answer because there's definitely a connection, as we discussed, between fitness and sleep in the RC. You can go back and quickly check as well if you want. The first paragraph itself, the author draws a connection with sleep and fitness and says fitness is not just about exercising regularly and having a healthy diet. Sleep also plays a big role. So this can be correct. We'll park it. One must snack frequently. This does not make sense. The author doesn't say that in order to remain physically fit, one must snack frequently. That's not what the author is saying. And again, I'm not using logic or general knowledge. Don't do that because you'll fall into traps that question set has set. Strictly go according to the information that the RC is given. The RC is not saying, the author is not saying that in order to remain physically fit, you should snack frequently. In order to remain physically fit, one must raise levels of ghrelin. That's not what the author is saying. You can go back and check. One must read a good book every night. Now, the author does talk about reading books, but is the author linking reading books to fitness? Let's go back and check. Be careful. Just because the words match doesn't mean it's necessarily the correct answer. So let's check. The author says, plus one can always read a good book or listen to soothing music, which can lull one into deep sleep. The author is saying for good sleep, you can read a good book. The author is not saying that reading a good book leads to fitness. Okay, so be careful with that. There, the context is different. Here, the context is different. So this is not the answer. The answer is, again, definitely 1, maintaining a set sleep pattern. Okay, so it's a manageable question, and you should always go back and check quickly. That way you won't make mistakes. Question 4 is the main focus of the passage is on the. Now, this is clearly a main idea question, right? We already have a main idea, and that's what you should do as well. For every passage, read it, extract the main idea, and then go to the questions. Now, the main focus of the passage, as we discussed, we'll quickly go back to the main idea that we extracted, was around the harmful effects of sleep deprivation and the advice or the suggestion that the author gives. That was a main idea. So that's our main focus. Now, we already have what we call a shadow answer. What is a shadow answer? A shadow answer is an answer that you create in your head after reading the question stem, but before reading the option. So this is where you have your shadow answer. You've read the question stem, you know it's a main idea question. Before even going to the options, you quickly revise your main idea. And then now you look at the options and choose an option that best matches your shadow answer. In this case, the shadow answer is the main idea that we have created. It's a very good strategy for solving RCs. This will help you increase accuracy. Because the moment you look at if you look at options directly, they'll start confusing you. But if you have some sort of shadow answer, some sort of broad answer in your head, the options won't confuse you as much. Okay, so let's look for an option which matches our main idea. Perils of insomnia and irregular sleep patterns. Perils means dangers. So dangers of insomnia and dangers of irregular sleep patterns, the author is talking about that. One huge part of the main idea is the harmful effects of sleep deprivation. This looks like the right answer, we'll park it. Stability of leptin and ghrelin in the human body. Now, is this the main focus? Leptin and ghrelin has been spoken about in terms of hormonal imbalance, but that's just one small additional point that the author makes. That is definitely not the main focus, right? The question is asking you for main idea, so this is not our answer. Ill effects of junk food high in carbs and sugars. Is this the main focus? No, the main focus is connected to sleep. How can you have an option in this situation where it doesn't even mention sleep? The whole passage is about sleep, right? So here you have an option that doesn't even remotely talk about sleep. Can't be the correct answer. We're looking for it's a main idea question. Dangers of high levels of cholesterol and diabetes. Absolutely not. The author is not talking about that. The author is talking about cholesterol and diabetes in connection with sleep deprivation. Okay, so this is not an answer. The answer is definitely one. It's a main idea question. Main idea questions are usually tricky, but this one is manageable, right? Provided you sort of did the right steps. You read the RC properly, understood it, extracted a main idea, had that shadow answer, and then looked at the options. This is the only option that talks about sleep. So it has to be one. All right. As per the passage, which of these sentences is not correct? Please read the questions very carefully. If you don't read the not, then you look for correct, your answer will go wrong. So that's why I always tell my students, read the questions and options very, very carefully. Read each and every word of the question and options. While you're reading the RC, you're focusing on the main idea. But when it comes to questions and options, slow down, read each and every word. As per the passage, which of these sentences is not correct? That means these three options are correct. Only one is not correct. Our job is to pick the one that is not correct. One's body and mind should be properly relaxed to ensure good sleep. Now, correct meaning per the passage, obviously. Does the author say that? Yes, the author does talk about relaxation in the last paragraph, right? Where it says that relaxation is important. Proper relaxation of body and mind before sleeping means that one should keep the mobile phone aside for at least half an hour before bed, right? So this is where the author talks about relaxation. So let's look at that option. One's body and mind should be properly relaxed to ensure good sleep. Absolutely. The author talks about the importance of relaxation for good quality sleep. So this is correct for the passage. Hence, this is not our answer because we're looking for not correct. Don't get confused. Insufficient sleep can lead to obesity. Yes, absolutely. The author has drawn. Just go back and quickly check again. Specific portion. Insufficient sleep, the author has connected it to obesity. One of the harmful effects of sleep deprivation is obesity, and that has been clearly mentioned. So that is correct for the passage. All right, this is not an answer. Remember, we're looking for not correct. Irregular sleep patterns can result in health problems. Absolutely, yes. The author has that. That's actually the main idea, right? Irregular sleep patterns, sleep deprivation can result in a number of health problems. This is absolutely correct for the passage. Regular exercising and eating healthy food alone ensure fitness. Now, read this option carefully. Read each and every word. The author has spoken about exercising and healthy food in the beginning, where the author says that, yes, it is a part of fitness. But read the option carefully. It says regular exercising and eating healthy food alone ensure fitness. Now, if you don't read alone, you'll get it wrong. You'll think it's correct. But the author doesn't say that. In fact, the author says the opposite. The author says, yes, they are important part of fitness, exercising regularly and having a healthy diet. But these are not the only two factors for fitness. Sleep deprivation also plays a very important role. Good quality sleep also plays a very important role. So because the option says, let's go back, alone ensure fitness, this is wrong for the passage. because it doesn't account for sleep, and sleep is the main discussion in the passage. So this is the right answer because we're looking for not correct. Okay, this can be tricky if you don't read the question carefully, if you miss this or if you miss this. That's why reading the questions and options carefully is very, very important so that you don't make silly mistakes. All right? Okay. The objective of the passage is to. This is also connected to the main idea, right? Although it's not a direct main idea question, but it's connected to that. Now ask yourself, what is the objective? The author is calling out the harmful effects of sleep deprivation and also giving suggestions and advice regarding, how can you improve your quality of sleep and all of that. So that's the objective of the passage. That's a shadow answer that we've created, right? We've thought about the answer before looking at the options. We've created some sort of broad answer. Objective of the passage is to provide medical input to the reader. Is that the objective? Is that the author's purpose? Think about it. Is the author providing medical input? Does this seem like a passage where the author is giving medical advice? No, that will be taking it too far. It's not really medical advice, right? The author, in the end, the advice is that, oh, read a good book, listen to music, relax yourself, have a definite sleep pattern. This is not medical advice. This is lifestyle advice, right? Medical advice would sound very different. So this is not medical input. Now, this might have thrown off a few students because you might think that, oh, the author is talking about medical ailments and all of that. Agreed, the author is talking about cholesterol and diabetes, but the input from the author is not medical. The advice is not medical. Okay, so this is not the answer. The objective of the passage is to advise the reader. Yes, right, definitely advise the reader, because the objective of the passage is twofold. Highlighting the harmful effects of sleep deprivation and also advising and giving suggestions to the reader to improve their quality of sleep. So although this seems like a very generic option, advise the reader, but it is true. That is one of the objectives, right? So we're going to park it and see if there's a better answer. Present psychological insights to the reader. There are no psychological insights here. Absolutely not. The author is not talking about psychological insights. So this is not correct at all. Expose the reader to disinformation. Is the author exposing the reader to disinformation? Absolutely not. Is the author saying that, oh, this is fake news, don't believe in it. This is a scam, don't believe in it. Absolutely not. There is no disinformation, right? So this is gone as well. Now, 2 might seem like a very generic option. So you might think that, oh, this can't be the correct answer. But there's no rule in RCs that generic options can't be correct, right? It is a generic option. It is consistent with the passage. And it is the best answer available, right? It's not medical input. It's not disinformation. It's not psychological insights. This is consistent, although it's generic. This is the option that we have. So that's fine. There is no rule that generic answers can't be correct. So be careful of that. This can be a little tricky. Medical input might have thrown people, but the author is not providing medical advice. All right. So hence the answer is